Update for you from Mekelle, where we know this morning Tigray military soldiers surrounded a Tigray government building, Tigray president office. What happened there? What was the demand of the protesters? Do they want removal of Tigray president or do they have other demands? Secondly, Marco Rubio, US Secretary of State, talked to Ethiopian PM a few hours ago. The shortest statement which I ever saw issued by US government after a call with Ethiopian PM was issued after this call. So what happened? Why was a really short statement issued? Why the to discuss? And lastly, a protest in Gondar, a demonstration for peace was organized in Gondar today. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for watching. Let's start with the new story about Gondar, where hundreds of people came out to protest in Gondar city. They called it March for Peace. They called for peace, unity, and reconciliation in the Amhara region. They urged Ethiopian parties to conflict to talk to solve the issues, and they said in their slogans that religious institutions can play a key role for peace and stability in the Amhara region. Obviously, it was a government backed demonstration which was organized in Gondar city today. Wherever Ethiopian government wants, prosperity wants, it organizes people, and we see large gatherings. But when it comes to activities of opposition groups, whether opposition, civil society groups, or political groups, they're not allowed to carry out any activity in the Amhara region. In other parts of Ethiopia, power fighters generally don't like such protests, but in the past, they have not been able to prevent these protests, though they resort to threats, intimidation, but they never succeeded in the past, and people were mobilized by PP to protest for peace and stability. Protests won't lead to peace and stability. If you want public opinion to be important, then everyone should be allowed to protest. Pro government gatherings alone cannot bring about peace in the region. You need to give this right to opposition. Only then can there be seen a genuine will and commitment to peace and stability in the Amhara region. Secondly, viewers, update for you from Tigray. This morning, we reported about Tigray Army's action in Mekelle. Army 31 of Tigray Defense Force surrounded the headquarters of the Tigray Interim Administration in Mekelle. Tigray President's office was also surrounded. Tigray government officials were not allowed to enter or leave the building. The protesters who surrounded the building are members of Tigray's Army 31. They were armed with weapons, with Kalashnikovs, with other weapons. They just surrounded the Tigray interim government building. Then we saw a barrage of claims that Varade is under house arrest, that these protesters want to remove Varade from power. Oh, I said, we need to wait. Let's wait for confirmation about the demands of the protesters. Because we saw in the past Tigray military members protest for raise in salaries, for other financial benefits. What we have learned so far is that this protest is not about removal of Tadesse Varade. People say that one faction of Army 31, which is supportive of Monjurino, is involved in this protest. No, but So far, the protesters are only demanding payment of salaries. They say they have been unpaid for the last 2 months. So the actions taken by the Ethiopian federal government are paralyzing Tigray government. They're creating an impact. Federal government has withheld budget for Tigray. Federal government has withheld DDR benefits for the members of Tigray military. Federal government is imposing restrictions on the movement of fuel and essential items to Tigray. All that is creating an impact, and we're seeing the effect of these restrictions by federal government in Tigray. Alarming thing is that these Army 31 members they stormed a weapon storage site to reportedly. They stormed the weapon storage site, and from where they captured weapons, they marched, they surrounded the Tigray interim government office. That is very alarming, by the way. And I think Tigray government will have to pay the members of Tigray military. In order to be paid, you need to be armed, it seems, now in Tigray. Teachers cannot protest. They don't have arms. Their protest won't be tolerated. But TDF members can protest. They can arm themselves. They can confront Tigray military leaders. How can Tigray sustain a 200,000 fighters army? How will salaries be paid? So it's not easy to have a large military. How will the government pay salaries? It's a big question, by the way. So overall, we can say there is turmoil, there is chaos in Tigray. There are several angles to this chaos: internal issues, external issues, the Simdo relation with the federal government, TPLF, internal splits, TPLF versus TPF, TPF versus TDF, Muslims complaining, so many issues in Tigray because there is uncertainty. There is no real solid uh, map and timeline for betterment and improvement in the situation in Tigray. Whenever there is uncertainty, it leads to conflict. Lastly, viewers, Marco Rubio, US Secretary of State, an Ethiopian PM talked on phone a few hours ago. And a very short statement was issued after this phone call by US State Department. The short statement mentions that the two leaders a shared commitment to regional stability and their commitment to work for peace. Largely, this is what is said in the statement by US State Department. There is no mention of internal security situation in Ethiopia in this statement. Whenever in the past top American leaders contacted Ethiopian Prime Minister, they talked about internal security situation in Ethiopia and regional peace and security. In this statement by your State Department, no mention of internal security. The call was not about TPLF versus federal government. It wasn't about Fano, Ola. It wasn't about election. It wasn't about political situation in Ethiopia. That's what is very interesting, by the way. General Dagvin Anderson, the US Africa Command General who visited Ethiopia a few days ago, and he visited Puntland and Somaliland too. After that, the General's Department, Africa Command, issued a statement, and again, in that statement, same language: regional peace, stability, fight against terrorist groups like ISIS and Al Shabaab, etc. Pro-Eritrean government people say that basically US is telling Ethiopia that Ethiopia must not consider waging war on Eritrea. that US is telling Ethiopia to stop considering the idea of waging war on Eritrea. And that is why there is mention of regional peace and stability. I don't know. To be honest, I don't believe in drawing conclusions without enough evidence. But I think we need to look more into it. Hopefully, I'll do a video on that, or in tonight's live chat, we'll speak more about it. Why is suddenly regional peace important for the US? I think maybe just a quick guess is that Americans want to end Sudanese civil war. That's what that's why they're focused. That's what they're focused on these days. Trump publicly announced and that he will work to end the war. Ethiopia is a player. Ethiopia and UAE back RSF. So maybe a strong message was given to Ethiopia by the US about what is happening in Sudan, that Ethiopia should not interfere in Sudan. But Eritrea is also interfering. Egypt is also interfering. We'll speak more about it. We'll analyze more about it in coming videos or tonight's live chat. Thank you for watching.